But I also want to talk about the latest developments in the Cupich scandal. Durbin has backed out, but really it's Pope Leo's comments to the press yesterday that started a wildfire. We're going to get into what Pope Leo had to say, especially as regards to the seamless garment theory.
The answer really sounds like Leo was like, I don't want to say anything bad about Cupich no matter what.
Pope Leo could have easily avoided this controversy that he's now made worse if he'd have said, I'm not familiar with the details, or just said, I don't want to comment on that right now, and walked off.
I completely agree. I think that he muddied the waters. Mm-hmm. And honestly, this goes with my disposition that popes shouldn't be giving media interviews at all. Have you ever noticed, as Catholics, the more they advocate for getting rid of the death penalty, the less they believe in hell?
Just assume, for the sake of the conversation, the seamless garment theory is Catholic teaching. You still would not give an award to Dick Durbin because he supports abortion.
By the way, my name is Joe McClane. I host a radio program called A Catholic Take, where we look at the world through a Catholic lens. I'd love for you to hang out with us. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments below.
But I do want to get into this story here while we still have some time. There's an article over at The Pillar. Headline says, Durbin declines award as USCCB pressure mounted. It says Cardinal Blaise Cupich issued an announcement on the subject. At the same time, senior leaders at the U.S. Bishops' Conference were confidentially preparing to release a statement on the Durbin Award, and had already informed the Vatican's U.S. representative of their plans, according to several sources close to the press. So members of the USCCB senior leadership reached out to the papal nuncio and said, listen, we're about to do something more. He needs to stop, and he's not. So pressure was applied. Dick Durbin backs out. That's the Pillar article there. But last night, His Holiness Pope Leo XIV was asked by a reporter what his position is on this. Have a listen.
I'm not terribly familiar with the particular case. I think that it's very important to look at the overall work that a senator has done during, if I'm not mistaken, 40 years of service in the United States Senate. I understand the difficulty and the tensions, but I think, as I myself have spoken in the past, it's important to look at many issues that are related to what is the teaching of the church. Someone who says I'm against abortion but says I'm in favor of the death penalty is not really pro-life. So someone who says that I'm against abortion but I'm in agreement with the inhuman treatment of immigrants who are in the United States, I don't know if that's pro-life. So they're very complex issues. I don't know if anyone has all the truth on them, but I would ask first and foremost that there be greater respect for one another and that we search together both as human beings, in that case as American citizens or citizens of the state of Illinois, as well as Catholics, to say we need to really look closely at all of these ethical issues and to find the way forward as church.
I agree. We do need to look forward at all these ethical issues, but the question becomes, are all of them equal? He seems to be, without saying the words, espousing the seamless garment theory, something I responded to on X just on this very point. Even if the seamless garment theory was true, you still would not give Dick Durbin an award because he supports abortion. Simply because if the seamless garment theory is true, that all things are equal, you can give an abortionist an award. It doesn't seem to track well. Well, I addressed this just yesterday as I was on the air with Father Robert McTagg.
Cardinal Cupich, has said, hey, I'm going to say some magic words here. You ready for this? Seamless garment ethic of life, which was a gift to us from Cardinal Bernardin of Chicago. It goes like this, Joe. Sure, abortion is really important, but to be pro-life, you have to be more than just anti-abortion. You have to have all these other concerns. Okay. But then after that, people have kind of hijacked it to kind of relativize abortion and say, well, sure, he's not on the side of the angels in terms of abortion, but he's really right on all these other things. And gosh, aren't we all sinners? So therefore, it's okay. There's been a lot of pushback, which we'll talk about shortly. But Joe, I'm a cleric. I'm not supposed to be partisan. The Vicar General of the Archdiocese of Chicago, right before this announcement came out, said to all the clergy, don't do anything in public that would cause scandal or division or make you look like a partisan. So, Joe, from a certain perspective, this is more the fight of the laity rather than the clergy. What's your take on this?
You know, it's so hypocritical to put out a directive like that. Don't be partisan, and then make the biggest partisan move of the year. That's getting bishops everywhere to speak up against you. I mean, just like this, the disconnect is mind-boggling. You know, in the Marine Corps, they trained us in combat school how to do combat first aid. And you have to triage your patient. Do you start with the sucking chest wound from the bullet? Or do you, like when the person got shot and fell and broke their arm, do you just set the broken arm first? And you have to prioritize, right? So there are a lot of things wrong, but you have to prioritize them and address them in the most important ones first, and then you move on from there. So this whole seamless garment idea that sort of raises everything is to be equal is just not true. Just even on the surface of it, it doesn't make any sense in natural order of the universe. We obviously have to stop the killing of unborn children as a higher priority than, say, dealing with the illegal immigration crisis in our country and around the world. Yes, we have to care about our neighbor. That's true. But it doesn't rise to the occasion of the wholesale slaughter of the...
And it doesn't rise to the occasion, which is why we're talking about this at all today, because these are ideas and issues that must be worked out, that must be discussed, that must be wrestled with, because there are big problems in the world, and we do need a Catholic solution to all of them. There's no political solution to any of this. But clearly, Cardinal Cupich was displaying partisan politics in a hypocritical way. And the seamless garment theory is their wild card, their get-out-of-jail-free card, the card that somehow allows them to do whatever they want. And unfortunately for Pope Leo XIV, he was caught by this journalist asking this question. I don't envy. I feel bad for him having been asked this question, and unfortunately for him, he weighed in. Perhaps he should have just said, "I don't know all the circumstances. I'll have to wait to comment later," and he would have been better off for it. But he plowed through, and it wasn't his first time. He's actually talked about the seamless garment in the past. Clearly, something he espouses. But, you know, it doesn't take you don't have to be St. Thomas Aquinas or even Sherlock Holmes. Go see what Thomas Aquinas said about, say, the death penalty, for instance. Thomas Aquinas said, quote, "The life of certain pestiferous men is an impediment to the common good, which is the concord of human society. Therefore, certain men must be removed by death from the society of men. Therefore, the ruler of the state executes pestiferous men justly and sinlessly in order that the peace of the state may not be disrupted." He goes on and on. You can find that in St. Thomas's Summa Theologica, Book 3, Chapter 146. So even St. Thomas Aquinas has weighed in on this issue. Not all issues carry the same weight, even if they are like serious issues. But I prefer that we find, alternative means, perhaps. But there are instances which the death penalty rises to the occasion. If someone breaks through my front door and tries to murder my wife and my children, and I have to put that person down, I have a right to do so, to defend myself, to defend my home, to defend my wife and kids. Do I want to? No, but I might have to. That's the responsibility of the state. That's the responsibility of dads, husbands, and fathers. That's just the way it works. But we're going to pretend otherwise. I think that's part of the problem. As Chesty says, Joe, you should schedule Pope Leo for the show. He seems to really like giving interviews. Ouch. Oh, I'm going to be the one he doesn't give the interview to, Chesty. Come on now. I don't know how one gets an interview. I don't even know how to do that. Michael Haynes is not even on LifeSite News anymore, so I can't even call him to call in a favor at the Vatican. So I'm not sure how to get that done. But if I could, I absolutely would interview Pope Leo. 100%, no questions asked. I'd ask him some interesting questions, too. Hitchmore, I want to get your comment on this, because I think Pope Leo could have easily avoided this controversy that he's now made worse, I would argue, if he just said, I'm not familiar with the details, or just said, I don't want to comment on that right now, and walked off. It would have been infinitely better than what he said. Do you agree?
I completely agree. I think that he muddied the waters. And honestly, this goes with my disposition that popes shouldn't be giving media interviews at all.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Good advice.
I mean, even good ones, even
Right,
good
yeah.
ones. And the reason is that the Pope is supposed to be the vicar of Christ on earth. And what that means is that when he says something, it should either be in a homily, in a, like one of his formal addresses on the Wednesday audience or something along those lines, or a promulgated law or document that is addressed to the Holy Church. Because and furthermore, I would say that popes should be speaking in the royal we, because he's not speaking for himself. If you listen to the interviews that Pope Leo has conducted so far, count how many times he says, "I think." I don't care what you think. I'm sorry to say it that way, but I don't.
I knew what you meant.
I care what the church thinks.
No, I agree. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct. And
Yeah,
I think it was Christian Wagner from I forget his channel name. Is it Scholastic Dispositions, I think, or something like that? But
Walmart Scholastic.
yeah, the Walmart Thomist is his ex account. Yeah.
Thomist.
But Wagner, he basically said something similar about how like even a lot of popes that we admire for their firm defense of doctrine in documents, whenever they've, at least in ways when we've been able to see it in the last 100 years or so, even popes that we have great respect for their clarity on doctrine in documents, have waded into political waters and their own opinions on things and just completely put their foot in it in the past. So it's hardly anything new. And you'd think they would maybe learn from this, but nope, they have not.
No off-the-cuff interviews.
I do want to read this from Damian Thompson, because this is interesting. It's maybe a little more hopeful than I'm willing to go, but it's interesting analysis. And Damian says, "I'm kicking myself for not having the courage to tweet last night that I suspected the award wouldn't happen. Cupich had provoked the Pope into an off-the-cuff comment that horrified many Catholics by appearing to support the Durbin Award." And Damien goes on saying, "Really what Leo was trying to do was avoid humiliating Cupich, to whom he is regrettably close. My guess, Pope Leo realized that if the Durbin Award went ahead, his mission to bring peace to the church would be blown even further off course. I wonder if it's a coincidence that Durbin declined the award immediately after Leo found himself caught in Cupich's trap. On the face of it, the path had been cleared for acceptance. The Pope had just publicly equivocated in a manner seized on by supporters of the stunt. Headlines talk about a, quote, global backlash, unquote, but with 200 bishops staying silent and Leo not condemning the award, it looked like Cupich had won, and then suddenly he hadn't. We may never find out what happened, but as traditionalists were erupting last night, I wondered if the Pope would find a way of stopping the thing. Anyway, we should be in no doubt that Blaise Cupich has now been thoroughly humiliated by events, and conveniently for the Vatican, the decision appears, and then he emphasizes again, appears to have been made by Durbin, whose lifetime of lobbying against the rights of the unborn child will now not be honored by the departing Cardinal Archbishop of Chicago. Again, I think that's a little hopeful of a fantasy.
That's very silver lining going on there.
Yeah, but I do think it's accurate that the answer really sounds like Leo was like, I don't want to say anything bad about Cupich no matter what,
Yeah, I still think he could have done a better job than he did, though.
Absolutely.
Even if that was his goal. The Trad Thomist is on the team in the chat box, I see. There is no way to explain it away. The death penalty comment has ripped tradition in two. I in the last hour I talked about that. I quoted St. Thomas Aquinas, who clearly defends the right of the state, let alone the individual, to have to, come to the point where you might have to put someone down. That is natural law and common sense, and it has always been a part of the church up until recently, when we no longer like it. And therein lies the debate. By the way, Trad Thomas is on the show tomorrow, so do join us. But I want to read this other comment from our good friend Paul from Buffalo. Hey, Paul says, "Thank you for using the medical triage example for connecting the dots of how our souls also have a triage. The difference between the physical triage and the triage of the soul is one. The physical ascends from the ground up, and for the soul, it descends from heaven down. If the person coming to harm your family had said yes in their soul to what came down from heaven, then they wouldn't have needed the physical repairs of medical attention after you're defending your family." Exactly. 100%.
Yep.
You don't call 911 asking for a cop. You call 911 asking for an ambulance, because it's about to go down. And we're in the state of Texas, and trust me, it goes down. And I just, why, Mike, do we, it's like it's common sense, but we throw common sense out the door. I just don't understand that. It's political ideology over common sense. They act like, so many commentators on X last night were like, all these trad Catholics are upset because Pope Leo, espouses Catholic teaching. The seamless garment theory isn't, it's ideology, it's politics at heart.
Well, you have to take, with regard to the death penalty, you have to take it to another level, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it in this way. But the issue is not whether you have jail space and the finances to take care of people in prison and make sure that they're fed and housed and all that kind of. That's not the issue. The issue is taking somebody who is a physical or a spiritual or a mental cancer on society and no longer allowing them to perpetrate what they're doing. This is why throughout the ages, regardless of what civilization you were a part of, anybody that was committing acts of treason were always executed, always, because what they were doing was harming the country by nature. This is why people who were heretics were always executed, because what they were doing was harming the faith. And there was no way that you were going to stop their ideological attack on the faith or on the country just by putting them in prison. In fact, in many respects, and just look at Nelson Mandela as an example, you empower them. You make them stronger by simply putting them in prison instead of executing them. So there is a reason for executing people. They may not even be violent criminals, ones who are out there committing acts of violence, but their words and their ideologies are violent, which is inimical to human nature itself. You can't allow it to exist and persist in society. This is why the church consistently tries to convert heretics before going to execution. They give them every opportunity, but when they do not recant and they go all the way up to the gallows, that's the problem. You can't allow them to continue.
Opportunity. I mean, think about that. The criminal gets way more opportunity to prepare themselves well for death than their own victims do.
Right.
Many of those victims have no chance. I mean, you just use Charlie Kirk, for example. The instant I saw the video of Charlie Kirk getting shot, I'm like, he's dead.
Yes.
I even said, if he somehow, survives this, it would be purely by the grace of God. But I think everybody agrees that he probably almost died instantly in that shot.
Yep.
Did he have the chance? Were there any sins that he was unrepentant of? I don't know. You don't know. Only God can know that. But I think it illustrates the point that it can happen in an instant and you might not be ready for it. But a criminal who commits those heinous crimes will be prepared for their judgment day because they had months, if not years, to prepare, to meditate, to ponder, to contemplate, to be repentant, to seek spiritual direction from a priest who would definitely come and hear it and should, because that's the most charitable thing to do, and then walk with him to the gallows even, or we don't have gallows anymore, but to the chamber or what have you. It lacks charity to suggest that all things are equal just by this one point alone.
And unfortunately, instead of priests going in and trying to convert the soul, to prepare the soul for death, they're out there parading and marching in the streets saying, this is unjust, you can't do this, da-da-da-da. How is that any good for the soul of the individual that's about to face its maker?
Right, yeah.
It just isn't.
It just isn't. And God loves them all. He doesn't love some of them. He loves them all, including the heinous criminal. And God punishes. He punishes those whom he loves. That's just part of it.
Catcan says, keep in mind, Jesus was crucified next to a thief, one of the most brutal punishments for one of the most common crimes, and everyone accepted it. It's part of having a society.
No, wait, come on. Jesus clearly said, it was like his 8th saying from the cross.
Yeah.
Capital punishment is evil. Remember that when he said that? I'm trying to look it up in my Bible, but somehow it's been taken out.
St. Dismas actually says, we deserve this. He tells his fellow thief, we deserve to be killed for being thieves. To bring up one of my favorite lesser-known saints, which is Saint Giuseppe Cafasso, who was known as the priest of the gallows, because he ministered specifically to condemned criminals and converted hundreds of them before their execution. He wasn't there trying to get them off of their sentence.
Right.
He was there to convert them and get them to heaven. He called them his hanged saints.
Yeah. Amen. You know, we need good saints like that. We would love for there not to be a need for the death penalty, but we live in a concupiscent world, the fallen world that obviously needs the death penalty as a guardrail in society. E. Kruer, good morning and welcome back to the show. Thanks for hanging out with us. Says, when Bishop Paprocki spoke out against Durbin's award, he said that Cardinal Bernardin himself, the godfather of the seamless garment theory, condemned the idea of using the seamless garment to downplay abortion. And this was the point that I made last night about when Pope Leo made his comments. Like, even let's just assume for the sake of the conversation, the seamless garment theory is Catholic teaching. It's true, right? Let's just pretend that that's true, that all issues are somehow equal. You still would not give an award to Dick Durbin because he supports abortion. Like, it's bizarre to me that people who want to play the seamless garment card put it on the table and like it's their get out of jail free card, like it's their wild card. All of a sudden, like, oh, that solves it. No, it doesn't solve it because he still supports abortion, like unapologetically so. I mean, he didn't say, it wasn't as though Dick Durbin came out against death penalty for the last 40 years of his political career. You know what I mean? Like, he came out against abortion. Like, he's for abortion. He came out against the pro-life cause. So, I mean, it's just bizarre to me, even if seamless garment theory was true. It just really does come across as weird to me. And thank you, E. Kruer, for making that point. Good morning to you, Helen Grace. Good morning to you, Phoebe Diggs. Praise be to God. Good to see everybody on the team today. Napoleon Solo says, we have to agree to disagree on the death penalty issue. Well, I guess we can agree to disagree, but I don't know that we have to agree to disagree. I mean, I think it's like, I read it in the last hour. St. Thomas Aquinas has spoken very clearly about this issue. And if you consider St. Thomas Aquinas, the standard, the gold standard of Catholic teaching, then, he says, quote, if a man be dangerous and infectious to the community on account of some sin, it is praiseworthy and advantageous that he be killed in order to safeguard the common good, since it's a little leaven corrupteth the whole lump, close quote. That's Thomas Aquinas in the Secunda of the Summa Theologica, who's also quoting 1 Corinthians 5:6 as he does it, by the way, or he's referencing it anyway.
Who enacted the first death penalty?
Oh, that would be God.
Yeah, Genesis 2, verse 16. And he commanded him, saying, of every tree of paradise thou shalt eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat. For in what day soever thou shalt eat of it, thou shalt die the death. That is a command that includes the death penalty. And guess what? Death entered the world because of the sin of Adam. And all of us are subject to that death penalty. All of us. Now, does that mean that God's hovering over the smite button, getting ready to take care of us whenever we commit a mortal sin? No, he wants us to repent. He wants us to convert. But but we still die. We're still subject to that same penalty. So this idea,
we're all going to face that penalty. None of us get out of
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's ridiculous for people to say the death penalty is unjust when God himself instituted it.
Bruiser, good morning to you, Bruiser. Love having you in the chat, by the way. Thank you for doing it. Our ACT insiders are amazing. He asks a good question, I think. He says, should the death penalty be admissible and common or admissible but rare? Hitchborn, what say you?
Well, the term admissible is kind of an odd term. It has no theological bearing. But if the question is, should it be something that is common or rare, I think that it's a serious thing. And the rarity or the commonality of it depends on the perpetrators that are behind the crime that are guilty for or subject to it. So, it's not something that you go, well, we want to have it safe, legal, and rare. That's not the issue. The issue is there should be a standard. That standard needs to be upheld. And if you have, say, an entire city's worth of uprisings that are, rising up against the authority of the state, and they're saying we're going to, overthrow the country and that kind of thing. Well, I'm sorry, but you have to kind of put them down. That's just the nature of things. It's the nature of the crime. It's the nature of the punishment that goes with the crime. So the commonality or the rarity depends on the number of people that are committing the crimes that are subject to that particular penalty. So it's not a matter of just saying how common we want it to be. It's how common is the crime that is subject to it. And I think that the more people or the more strictly that you adhere to that kind of punishment for those particular crimes, then you're going to see a drop in the number of people committing it. It's just kind of the way things go.
I like the way Dave's June 93 puts it here. Good morning to you, Dave. Thanks for hanging out with us. Love having you on the team. It says frequency is irrelevant. It should always be just and appropriate. Yay and amen.
Yep.
And, the problem is there's no political solutions to our problems in this world. We can't just vote the solution into office. It's a top-down issue. It has to be led by Holy Mother Church because she is the sacrament, the instrument and sacrament of salvation on planet Earth. It is through Holy Mother Church that God's design for mankind is realized fully. So if the bishops don't go out and try to evangelize every soul, not just some souls, if the bishops don't get off the fence and decide to take their job very seriously and go to the point of even martyrdom in trying to proclaim the good, the true, and the beautiful to a world that needs to hear it, then no matter what you do politically, it won't matter, right? So you could have good judges and bad judges. You could have good lawyers and bad lawyers that will abuse the system, and things will go sideways. If we want things to be truly better, it has to start with Holy Mother Church. The bishops have got to get off the fence and take it seriously. And as they do that, as they proclaim the fullness of the truth without reserve, without tapping on eggshells, as Pete Hegseth put it yesterday in front of the judge. You got to go listen to that whole talk. Do yourself the favor and listen to it. It's so good. It's just so good. No more eggshells, no more tapping around and trying to be careful about how you word things with certain people. Just proclaim the truth. Just give them the solid truth. Then that might permeate the hard hearts of political rhetoricians on both sides of the aisle. Yeah. And who knows what that might do? That might change society in a way that we can't even fathom. And I'm going to argue that it has to start there. Tradish Mom, good morning to you, says, I remember several years ago, Father Martin, do you mean Jimmy? Tweeted, quote, you can't say you care about unborn babies and not migrants, close quote. He got 100,000 likes. But then he tweeted, quote, you can't say you care about migrants and not about unborn babies, close quote, and only got 1,000 likes. That's politics for you, isn't it, Trash Mom? Thanks for being on the team.
Well, that's social media for you.
Same thing. What's the diff? What's the diff?
Basically the same thing. This day.
Basically the same thing. Sleeping Lioness, good morning, says Canada doesn't have capital punishment. Went well until Justin Trudeau was voted in until 2013. Think about the burden also of housing unrepentant, violent criminals for the rest of their life. In an age of inflation gone out of control, is that just? I'm wondering, is that just?
Is it just to keep these people locked into a system where horrible, immoral, soul-killing things are happening to them? Like the thing, one of the things that disgusts me, completely, is when people gloat about, oh, wait till he goes to prison, he's going to get it then, that sort of thing. I won't go into details of what these people wish on people. That is absolutely horrible, disgusting, and anti-Catholic. If you're wishing that on anyone, even a horrible criminal, you are horrible. You cannot do that. You cannot be wishing for that. That is an absolute scandal and a disgrace and a horror. That should not be happening. And that's part of the problem of locking people up for life in these places where their souls are deadened. And I'm so grateful for those who do take seriously the call to prison ministry, because some of the people who need it the most are in there. Those are the people that we should be trying to save the souls of, because
100%.
Again, as someone who is, I'm in favor of the Catholic teaching on the actual traditional Catholic teaching on the death penalty, but that has to go along with ministering to the prisoner.
Agreed.
They have
100%.
to go hand in hand. Absolutely.
I also I am very critical of the treatment of prisoners. Like in the state of Texas, we don't air condition our prisons. It's part of the punishment. And listen,
That's awful.
Yeah, it's unjust in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you have prisoners that are serving a time and they're going to get out. I think it's in our best interest as a society to prepare them for the day when they get out and can reintegrate into society. Well, Joe, the taxpayer shouldn't pay for that. Okay, fair enough. Then open your doors wide to the Catholic Church to allow them to send people in. And I know Catholics that do this, and they do a fantastic job at this, by the way, prison ministry. And they will go in there and they will meet with these people. They will spend time with them. They will accompany them. They'll disciple them. Any word you'd like to use. But they will try to convert them and make them greater citizens, let alone brothers and sisters in Christ, and integrate better into society. I think we have to prepare them for that day instead of treating them like animals and then wondering why the recidivism rate is so high and they keep coming back for more and more of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, do we want to stop this cycle?
Have you ever noticed that the proponents of the abolition of the death penalty, as Catholics, the more they advocate for getting rid of the death penalty, the less they believe in hell? Have you noticed?
Yeah.
And I think that what happens is they fail to recognize that the death penalty is supposed to be a reflection of the capital punishment of the soul. That when those souls who commit mortal sins face the just judge at the end of their lives, and they still have those mortal sins on their souls, they will face that capital punishment of eternal death in hell. And you have to have that perfect reflection, that perfect recognition that the capital punishment of the body is supposed to be a reflection of that just judgment. And you can't get rid of capital punishment without getting rid of the idea of the permanency of hell. You can't. They're both linked.
Yeah. Kevlar Catholic is back. Praise be to God. Good morning to you. Kevin, good morning to you. It says in the U.S., life imprisonment is a far greater assault on the dignity of the criminal and capital punishment. The system is not at all set up for the rehabilitation of the soul. You just reminded me, I was listening to Matthew McConaughey the other day. All right. He's kind of a weird bird. I'm not going to lie.
He's interesting.
He's, kind of a weird bird. He's from the Houston area originally, and that's probably why he's a weird bird. But nonetheless, he was talking about his parents and their version of punishing and how he and his brothers used to get in trouble all the time. And he said that his parents would never ground them. Never ground them. The punishment was always licks. They would get their licks. No matter what they did, they got licks for it. They didn't get grounding. And the interviewer was like, why? Why would you not get grounded? And he said, well, my mom and my dad would say, your time is your most precious, valuable asset. And I don't want to take that away from you. I need you to use that, constructively. So instead, they would get their licks. And no matter where they were, if they did something wrong and mom and dad felt like they broke a rule, then they got their licks. They got their licks right then and there. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. And he did say that had a profound impact on him, and how he approached, that guardrail, which is corporal punishment. Should we make corporal punishment great again? Yesterday, Pete Hegseth, going back to, you got to listen to Hegseth. If you have not listened to Hegseth's speech already, then as soon as we're done here at the top of the hour, but Hegseth talked about drill instructors and how drill instructors have gotten basically they've been wokeified over the last, couple of decades. And he's like, that time is over. We're going to go back to tried and true methods where drill instructors can motivate young recruits and even put their hands on them. Woo! Man, oh man, I got to tell you, I could tell some horror stories about my drill instructor putting hands on you. I mean, first there would be the yelling. Then there would be the throwing of things like, say, your footlocker, or your helmet. And then there would be the throwing of things like your body tossed into a wall, So, I mean, the good old days of Marine Corps boot camp, I guess, are going to be coming back under this current administration. But that's because the recruit understands very, very quickly that you follow certain rules and guidelines, you do certain things, and you regulate yourself and your own personal self-interest and your own personal concupiscent nature because you do not want what will happen as a result to you being rebellious.
Right.
There's a certain natural law to that I think we've lost in our society that we need to make great again. Down to the wire here, Michael Hitchborn. Last words. Do you think that this is the end? Do you think now that Durbin is out, is this the end of the conversation? Or are we just getting started?
Of course not. No, the end of the conversation about Dick Durbin or the end of the conversation about the seamless garment
debacle, especially with Leo chiming in?
Yeah, that's going to be the end of it. Just knowing the attention deficit disorder of the media cycle, it's going to phase out and people are going to forget about it and they're going to move on to the next shiny thing. So I don't think that this is going to be a continuing story. However, I think there's an opportunity to build on it. Those brave bishops that stood up and actually condemned the situation, I think we need to be building them up and continuing to work with them to fight against the next thing that's going to come up and continue to encourage more bishops to stand out and to stand up and to say, hey, enough of this. We can't keep, futzing around with people pushing an evil agenda. You've got to stop.
Yeah, got to stop. Praise be to God.
Yeah,
Jake, last words.
I think we can be grateful for the fact that publicly, at least, this is a bit of a loss and an embarrassment for, the Cupich side of things. Even if you're fully arguing that Pope Leo was totally on Cupich's side in that statement, which I don't think is necessarily true. It's not as a I think we should give Durbin awards. To me it really seemed more of a I don't want to say anything offensive about this guy who I know who's the is prominent. But the fact that 10 bishops spoke out and now the story is getting out that the USCCB was getting involved and they were talking to the nuncio and all this and that exactly right. Is that we have something to build on, Michael. We have something to build on from this and from that opposition. It's a potentially good sign as far as that goes. But yeah, I think that the specifics of this conversation are going to fade away pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there'll be something else to take its place whenever it does. There's never an end. There's never an end to any of it. Praise be to God.
I'm still waiting for Pope Leo to accept Cupich's resignation.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe he'll take this opportunity.
Please, Your Holiness, call me. I will have free advice for you. I promise. Free advice. Tons and
Big
tons.
Joe and Michael, your press secretary.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.